Wes, it has been some time since it was just the two boys. The double up, the infamous double up. It's been a while.
It has, yeah. We've had Lynn on last week with yourself. Great job, Lynn, covering for me. We had, was it Mark the week before then?
Yeah, Mark Southerns.
Yeah, I think we might have missed a week randomly, didn't we, where we just couldn't fit it in. I think it was maybe
33.
Yeah,
it was
I think it
was an awkward one.
Quick turnaround in our schedules and whatever else. But yeah, we're back. The boys are back in town. Like you said, the infamous double up, the much loved double up, I'd like to think.
Less loved now after that ego.
Yeah.
But game week 32 as well, we had the Wolf Pod crossover, so we've had our last three releases here have been with people, but we're back and it's us. And you're joining me from underneath a blanket, or is the blanket been removed?
No, the blanket is back on. I'm trying to make my sound better because I've been having a little bit of sound issues. Hopefully the listeners haven't minded too much, but your sound is like crisp and perfect. Mine's a bit echoey, so hopefully it sounds a bit better for the listener today, and that's what I'm willing to do, John, for our listeners.
You look kind of like, do you know whenever kids get dressed up as like Mary or Joseph for their kids' play?
Yeah.
And they've got like the dodgy old towel over their head, and it just like, I have photos of me like that when I was a kid. That's what you're kind of like. You've just got this big sort of rug draped over you for the sound, but that's commitment to the pod.
It is.
I like to see it, Wes.
John, there's something else from we do obviously YouTube live streams, don't we? Which is a similar-ish vibe to this, a little bit different, but yeah, check us out later on in the week. But on that, we've been getting who's the famous people have been telling us we look like.
You're the Mandalorian. Let me look. I'm going to look it up here.
Yeah.
You were Pedro Pascal, is it?
Yeah, and he's the guy from the sort of lead guy from Narcos as well, isn't he? That's where I know him from. Yeah,
so that's who you're told you look like.
Yeah.
And I am told I look like Kevin Owens, which is a wrestler. So if anyone's into that, go and look up Kevin Owens and Pedro Pascal, because a lot of our podcast listeners might not necessarily know what we look like.
Yeah.
We'll if you care,
I'll try and tweet later a picture of what I'll grab a screenshot from the live stream of both of us, then I'll put it alongside Pedro Pascal and the wrestler that you look like, and see what people think.
They're definitely onto something like that. I've been told I look like that guy before. That's not the first time. But yeah, I suppose, are we doing this live stream again this week, Friday?
Yeah, I'm up for Friday. I think it's another Friday deadline in FPL, isn't it? So again, everyone watch out for that, because even we've had a lot of them this year, so it's I guess it's easier to sort of remember. But yeah, it can always creep up on you, especially if you've got a 9 to 5 job, Monday to Friday, and you're used to doing your team Saturday mornings. It can definitely catch you out. So yeah, watch out for that, and we'll do a stream probably again midday time ish, 12:30 ish, probably on the Hub channel. But yeah, watch out for our tweets and stuff like that. You'll become clear, won't it?
Yeah, but it'll be around lunchtime on Friday. And it was great fun last week. We had a lot of engagement. There was 350, 400 people there, and we did a quick fire question thing towards the end. We must have rattled out about 100 kind of yes or no, or option A, option B style questions. We rattled them out in about 15-20 minutes, and
it was so good.
The punters loved it.
Yeah, it was so good. We loved it, didn't we? And then like the questions, because people then knew their question would be answered, or likely to. People we couldn't actually keep up with how many questions. I went out on Twitter. By the time people listen to this, you possibly saw a tweet from myself saying that we'd do it on this pod, but it's looking like we are just going to do our regular style on this pod, because for a podcast, it works better if we actually delve into the questions a bit more. So changed our mind on that.
Absolutely. Well, Wes, is there anything else before we get into the actual FPL stuff?
No, let's get into it.
Yeah, let's just do it. Okay, Wes, so we're actually, for everyone listening, recording midweek. We're recording on Tuesday at 12:30 in the afternoon, and we're mid-game week as it is.
Yeah.
We still have, obviously, United Leicester tonight, Southampton Palace, and then the Wednesday and Thursday fixtures. So, again, with everything, like most weeks, COVID's kind of wrecked all the FPL podcast scheduling.
Yeah.
Take everything we say with either a pinch of salt or apply it to injuries/suspensions that happen after this podcast.
Yeah.
But it's been a very exciting game week. It's kind of going to plan for a lot of managers.
Yeah. For myself, actually, I'm just trying to have a little look back now at how I've done in recent weeks. So yeah, I've had a good little run. We'll get into that in a minute, won't we? Because we haven't really updated, because of obviously all the crossover type pods and guests and stuff. We haven't really indulged our own teams too much. But yeah, this week for myself, I'm sitting on 60 points, which is a very small red arrow. So I don't mind too much. I got a good bit of luck with the Mendy penalty save, and then I got a little bit of bad luck with And again, we don't like to talk too much about luck, do we? But a little bit of good and bad luck with the Mendy pen save and the bad luck for the Watkins sending off. So, yeah, happy enough, I guess, with 60 points so far. And I'll dig into my season, my sort of last 10 weeks or whatever in a minute. But how have you got on so far this week, John?
It's been a pleasant kind of turnaround. And I've been in free fall from I peaked in game week 25. It's actually mad how time flies, isn't it?
Yeah.
And that was at like 7.5k, and I've just been down and up and down, and I was at my lowest since game week 22 there at 41k. And this week, it was like 5 out of 6 red arrows in the bounce. And now, 79 points. And I've still obviously got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 fixtures. So 2 of them are United players, so maybe they won't play them both, but it's been really good. It's been really good. Even Dallas and Leitner on my bench with 15 points, so it's like it's one of those weeks. 79k sort of, or 92k game week rank at the minute, and I think
it's pretty good.
Could go higher, but yeah, it's a breath of fresh air. It's one of those. I think whenever you're doing shit in FPL, it's not that you get. I don't throw the toys out of the pram and give up, but I'm definitely less engaged. Yeah. I'm kind of like. I don't like not make transfers or go on tilt. I'm pretty level headed that way, but I definitely just kind of get a bit like ugh.
I think
I don't get the same.
Yeah, I think
you don't get the same buzz at the weekend watching the match.
I know what you mean, and that's sort of for me. It's probably that Monday where if I've had a good week on a Monday, I'll be looking at mini leagues, seeing how far I've climbed up. I'll be maybe penciling in some early transfers, maybe that sort of thing. But when you've had a bit of a And it's not really a bad week for me so far. It's a small red arrow, but it's even still like on, obviously recording on Tuesday, sort of that Monday, I just like didn't really want to check FPL too much, or couldn't really engage my brain to even think about what transfer I definitely wanted to do. Just sort of had a sort of day off and thinking about it, if you know what I mean.
Absolutely. But Wes, as you said, like we haven't really indulged in our teams in about 3 weeks now, really.
Yeah, possibly longer.
Don't worry, for people listening, we're not gonna like go through our teams meticulously and bore the tits off you.
Yeah.
But we will kind of, I think it'd be good just to kind of roughly go through where our team's at, the logic behind it, and we can talk about talking points within our teams, because we actually have relatively different teams.
We do.
So there'll be players you have, players I have, that are in our teams for a reason, because they're talking points and because people want them, or maybe they've become an issue and we want rid of them. But just to run through mine quickly where I'm at, I've got Martinez in goal, who's just probably going to stay there to the end of the season. Defence this week, well, defence every week, but defence at the minute is great because at Phillips and Trent, and I brought in Lucas Digne this week, so 3 clean sheets, really solid. And then on the bench there's Leighton and Dallas, who also did well. Diogo Jota, I'm getting a bit sick of, really.
Same.
One talking point from this week, Wes, just to kind of intertwine it here, is Bruno and Greenwood. Whenever I checked, I thought my captaincy at Greenwood was an absolute masterstroke, because he was on for 3 bonus and Bruno on for 2.
Yeah, it changed.
Believe it or not, it changed. Not for the first time this season. Bruno claws a few back.
It's interesting, isn't it? The bonus sort of gets, there's a sort of a full-time bonus, and then there's sort of some adjustments. And when it's so, I think Bruno was maybe one. In the bonus point system, I think Greenwood was 29 and Bruno was 28, something like that. And Bruno must have just got. There must have been something that the stats guys missed straight, initially, that they added on. It happened to Salah, I think, at the end of that Liverpool-Newcastle game. He was on for no bonus, and then a slight adjustment actually bumped him up to 2 bonus. So, things like that can happen. But I guess, and especially as it doesn't matter at all for the bonus point system. But mentally, you watch the game, you think, Bruno scored a penalty, whereas Greenwood scored from open play. It's that mentality thing where I always think of it like that player deserves more bonus, but it just doesn't work like that, does it?
I know. Greenwood's goal was lovely too, but I think I'm happy. I'm just going to double check, but I'm 90% sure Greenwood came off about 65 minutes in. Yeah. Let me check.
He was the first sub off for Cavani, I think,
Yeah, so he came off 65 minutes. What a memory. And then Bruno didn't come off to 86, so Bruno's 21 minutes extra in the legs. So I'm kind of thinking, like, I'm happy with the captaincy as it stands. I'm thinking Greenwood might get a bit more game time against Leicester than Bruno tonight, but maybe I'm wrong. He's young as well, he's not quite as important to the team.
We've just got to wait and see. These 3 fixtures, it's very tough to second guess and guess. I think this one tonight is the one that Solskjaer was on about, playing some youngsters in. So, yeah, I think just whatever happens with United assets. That's how I'm looking at it. But yeah, I think good pick with Greenwood. I almost went for him in my team. Went for Jota instead, which was mainly because of I wanted to have an extra player for this game week coming up, the blank. So it is annoying when you ignore the asset you actually prefer to get one in, to be sort of planning for that blank, and it backfires. It sort of feels like, why have I done this sort of, why have I thought so far ahead? But who knows, obviously Greenwood blanks in 36, maybe Jota gets me something then, who knows, or maybe even something against Man United. But yeah, I feel a bit in regret about that. Another move I could have done as well was actually Kane to DCL and then kept Son in midfield rather than the Jota move. I did need to free up some money for Trent. But yeah, I feel a bit gutted about the moves I made last week, to be honest. Or that move, sorry.
Yeah, that's how I felt the last few weeks about my moves. I've had a few shocker moves back to back to back. They just are all... I've been making the wrong choices. But this week, thankfully, I got rid of Dunk, who got the red. He got the goal as well. And I brought in Lucas Digne. And I brought in Calvert-Lewin for Jamie Vardy. So I think it's worked out this week, thankfully. But other than those who have mentioned there, I had Son, I've Kane. Kane's a big talking point as well, maybe this week. And a Iheanacho who's just on fire. That's it's crazy numbers, do you know? Yeah. What's that? If we look at it, it's probably since 20. It's probably like 10 goals, 10 games, something like that, is it?
So I think if you include assists as well, I think it's something like 12 returns in 11 games, maybe even. I can't remember if I've added on the more recent one now, but yeah, it's something like a return per start for him over his last 11 or 12 games.
I heard that
in an FPL return,
in Europe's top 5 leagues, he's got the most goals since he started. It's something like March 25th or March something. I heard. I think it might be since that Fulham game, or maybe even since the Arsenal game. But anyway, in the last time frame, he's got the most goals in Europe's top 5 leagues, other than Kylian Mbappe, which is like
insane. Yeah, and I think even someone like Chris Wood would be not quite as up there as that, but he's got obviously 5 goals in his last 3, and if you look back a little bit further, he's doing well as well. So yeah, he's another, and again, it's another budget striker. I think we'll do a little chat on budget strikers later, because there's a lot of interesting ones there actually. And you said about Kane, so yeah, if you needed to potentially free up money, maybe you could look at one of those budget strikers instead, who are all in good form. Antonio, Wood, Iheanacho. I would have said Callum Wilson, but news just broke this morning that he's actually injured for the rest of the season now. But yeah, there's a lot of choice there. I'm just going to try and bring up some of Chris Wood's stats whilst we chat. Because it's just interesting to see how well he is doing recently. And his goal last night, his goal against Fulham last night as we're recording. Very good.
There's a listener of our show. I'm pretty sure it's a listener of our show. Might be a watcher of our streams, maybe both. I can't remember his tag or his name, so sorry, but you'll know who you are. He's in New Zealand, and I think he might be a Newcastle United fan. And he said to me weeks ago that if Chris Wood gets 5 goals between now and the end of the season, and this was before Chris Wood's form really kicked off, he said if he gets those, you have to get a New Zealand shirt with Shearer 9 on the back. And I said if he gets 6 goals, you have a deal. So we're not far off if it hasn't already been hit. I think if it hit it, he would have messaged me. But if he's listening, I'll tell you, if I get that shirt, it's going to go in the cupboard and rot. But if it happens, I'll give 50 quid to charity instead. I'm not I could spend 50 quid on the shirt and it'll do nothing. I'll give 50 quid to charity if it happens. So you'll need to chase me up, because I forget when that kind of bet started. But Chris Wood is costing me cash.
Yeah. I think Chris Wood had from game weeks 22 to 25, he missed about 5 or 6 games for injury. He then returned off the bench, but then since he started in week 26, and he started every game since then, and that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 starts and 8 goals and 3 assists. So yeah, 9 starts, 8 goals, 3 assists, 11 FPL returns in 9 starts for a 6.4 million Burnley forward. I wouldn't have guessed that, when he returned from injury back in week 26, like I said. So yeah, he's been on absolute fire as well. That's pretty much similar sort of returns as Iheanacho's got over that period. Maybe Iheanacho's are slightly better, but yeah, he's one that I've kind of ignored and never really considered. It's always just been like Burnley striker, no thanks. But yeah, I think we can no longer ignore him, especially with his fixture run. Just getting that up as well. I think it's Leeds next, isn't it? Yeah, Leeds at home, Liverpool home. Could get a goal there. They are conceding, and then Sheffield United away. So Leeds and Sheffield United in the next two out of the next three. It's a bit of a mixed bag, but it's not. You could do worse, is what I'm trying to say. Especially someone like Iheanacho. Actually, if you look at him, he has a blank, and then I think he's got a couple of tough fixtures. Has he? I think one of them's tough at least. I can't remember.
Yeah, he's Chelsea and Tottenham.
Chelsea. Yeah, so blank and then Chelsea in 37. Tottenham, you could get something versus Tottenham, but because they're pretty weak defensively. But Chelsea are really obviously good defensively. So, if you're looking for a budget striker for the next 3 game weeks, it might sound crazy to transfer Iheanacho out, but it's something I'm considering because out of his next 3 games, the only obviously 3 games of the season, one of them is a blank, so he's definitely not getting you any points there. The next one's Chelsea, and then we're into the final game of the season, and anything can happen. And someone like Chris Wood at that point has Sheffield United anyway, so yeah, I think Iheanacho out could be a decent move with someone like Antonio there as well, looking decent. Bamford, I think, returned with a goal, didn't he, recently, and has done okay this season. So there's a lot of options in that budget striker category. And if you count Calvert-Lewin, I know he's about 1 million more than those ones I've just mentioned, but he's got Sheffield United this week. He's in form. So yeah, I can see a lot of transfers out for Iheanacho coming this week.
Yeah, it could be the move I end up making because where I'm sitting, I have a team, I have 11 players for game week 36, but I'm playing 5 defenders. I don't know if I want to get rid of Bruno or Greenwood. They have the blank, but then they've got Fulham and then they've Wolves and I don't know. Maybe there's a -4. Greenwood, Iheanacho gone. Bring in 2 better players, Wood and someone in midfield. I don't know, but yeah, look, just to completely wrap off my team, I'm sitting at 26k now, Wes, 27k with 11 games essentially to come in this game week for me. So things are looking up for the first time in a few weeks. You're obviously still a good bit ahead of me, which is kind of heartbreaking. I was actually in a place called The Range, which is kind of like shit IKEA. In Ireland, and I walked through the acrylic section and I seen the canvases and paints, and I really was tempted to tag in. I said no, I'm not conceding just yet. I'm having too good a game week. Yeah, well, yeah, get your wallet out, John. Hopefully you'll be the one buying paint and not me. But yeah, it could still happen. Let's see the just to update everyone. It's kind of mid game week, so it's going to come out of date very soon. But roughly speaking, me and John, I am 54 points ahead. So assuming that we finish the game week similarly, I think there'll be possibly still around a 50-point gap. Maybe John can close it a little bit. But yeah, I'm about 50 points ahead. I'll segue on to my team now, John. I am just pulling up my full game week history so I can get it. You've been doing amazing, basically. You've had a few cracking weeks. So back in, obviously, the infamous balls up that I did with the bench boost, I went from, at that point, I was around 43k. And then I dropped all the way down to 200k in that week. And then I was a few weeks at 200k. Jumped up a little bit, then back down to 200k, and then I think, let me have a look. I'm trying to see it here. Yeah, in week 22, I was 209k, and then it's just been green arrows ever since, with one very small red arrow, which basically was in the grand scheme of things didn't really matter. And then I raised before this game week started. I was 4,400, and now after obviously, like I said, we're halfway through the game week, and I've dropped down a little bit, 600, 700 places. I've dropped down to 5,098. So yeah, I'm happy with that, and if I can claw a little bit back, maybe get I'll take a minor red arrow this week. Like I said, I had that Watkins red card. I took out Son, bought in Jota, didn't have Calvert-Lewin, so a few things have maybe been mistakes for me or whatever. Maybe a bit harsh to call them mistakes. Just players I don't have. You can't squeeze everyone in. Have done well, which is fair enough. Everton defence as well. Players I would have liked, but decided not to take any. Haven't taken minus hit in a few weeks, and not many this season. So yeah, and yeah, I'm hoping to. I guess at this stage of the season, I'd take a top 10k finish. I don't know whether to be ambitious and sort of say that I want to finish higher than what I am now. But realistically, I always try and see things in the grand scheme of the season. I'd be happy to finish top 10k, especially after a poor first 6-7 weeks, a poor middle start phase of the season, and a really strong end 10 weeks, whatever it is, 13 weeks. So yeah, hopefully I don't fall off a cliff in these last few weeks. I'll segue onto my team for this week, like you just did. I guess everyone's in the same position, so maybe it'll be a low scoring week, or maybe it doesn't matter. I don't know, but I haven't got any Everton assets for the Sheffield United game, which I'm not happy with. I do have 11 starters without a transfer. Sorry, I plan to have 11 starters without a transfer.
by removing Rudiger and keeping Dunk, because Dunk had a fixture this week, but obviously Dunk then went and got a red card. So my transfer, I can use one free transfer, get up to 11 players, but that will include starting both Concert and Martinez, and they're not keeping many clean sheets. I know they've got Crystal Palace, so it is a good fixture. Then I'm going to start Armstrong, who again has got a good fixture, but I'm not too impressed with Armstrong really. Not the best transfer in by me. He did get me an assist the first week I had him, but yeah, Armstrong at home to Fulham, I'm not expecting much there. And like I said, I've got no Calvert-Lewin or Luca Dean, so who knows? Maybe I'll pull a -4 out, and therefore I'll have one starting sub as well, which might come in handy. So yeah, I haven't written off a -4 or just a transfer at the minute. I'm really unsure.
Yeah, it's a tough one, like, because even when I look at my 5 defenders there, 2 are Liverpool against West Brom. They could be 2 clean sheets potentially. Digne at Sheffield, you'll play him regardless. Dallas at Burnley. Do you know Dallas is goal threat all the time. Leeds, now they're away, but their defence isn't that bad. And they've definitely shook off that kind of first few months of the season vibes where it was like, we'll just score more than you.
6-2s and 4-3s, yeah.
No, now they've really solidified their defence, and they are getting goals. So it's like, I don't know, I think Dallas is against Burnley isn't bad.
He's in my team this week, yeah.
I've Luton against them, so you're kind of hoping for a 0-0 there. But up top then I've got 2 Spurs lads, the Son and Kane, and then Calvert-Lewin, Sheffield, Lingard against Brighton, Jota against West Brom. So it's not like I'm wanting for anything. Part of me is tempted to just roll the transfer. The risk is rotation. Like, Jota hasn't been playing great recently.
No. In terms of Jota and Lingard, they're kind of both sort of midfielders priced around sort of 6.5 to 7 million sort of range, and they've both faltered a little bit in the more recent weeks after being, those who are bang on form, especially Lingard, obviously. Maybe I'm being a bit harsh on Lingard. 3 blanks in a row for Lingard. Hasn't looked that threatening. The Chelsea game was his first blank, and I put that down to, Chelsea being so good defensively. The second one was Burnley away. Can't remember actually, that was quite an entertaining game, but Lingard wasn't that involved. It was sort of Benrahma and Antonio and Fornals even that looked a bit more attacking. And then the Everton game again was a bit flat for West Ham, so I'm a little bit worried there. But I think it is one of those weeks where it's a blank game week. Most people are going to be sitting there with the likes of Fernandes and Iheanacho on their bench, and therefore playing weaker teams. So are we? A question to you, John, is, and to myself, I've got to try and answer this myself. Are we? I'd ideally like to take a -4 and improve my team, but is it just one of those weeks where I roll with the likes of Armstrong and Concert, take their, probably going to get me two points? Do I just roll with that and, damage limitations for what beckons to be potentially a low-scoring game week? I don't know. What do you think?
You see, what I think, like, it doesn't necessarily, unless financially it needs to be the -4, what I'm thinking is probably the compromise and the happy medium for me here is, I don't need a -4. Getting rid of Jota or Lingard might be nice, but it doesn't need to happen. Whereas getting rid of Iheanacho for maybe Chris Wood, it gives me a stronger option. I can stick Luton on the bench, or I can stick Dallas on the bench. I can stick, I don't know, one of those defenders on the bench. And it's a transfer I probably want to make, based off what you were saying to me. I didn't realise just how bad Kelechi's fixtures get. I mean, it's a blank Chelsea, Tottenham. Like, that is not good. And I know he's in red hot form, but I don't know. I'm thinking use the transfer, don't roll it, because I really just want that extra coverage in case there's a benching or rotation. Yeah. Which, in fairness, now the ones who you'd be worried about are the guys who are in the Champions League final, which I don't have any Chelsea or City cover. I also only have 2 United players, but they're blanking anyway. So it's like, maybe rotation isn't exactly on the cards this week for me, but you just never know. Jota could be benched. Firmino didn't start the last game. And sorry, actually, Liverpool might have another fixture this game week already, do they?
Yeah, they're playing United, aren't they? But I think
you know what I'm getting at.
Yeah, but it's interesting. So we're both. And again, this is I sent this as an audio to my WhatsApp groups actually, and I think it's a really good point. So last week I had a choice of a transfer for my defensive transfer. I had 2 free transfers, and I used one on Son to Jota, and my other one I could have removed like Concert or Dunk or Rudiger. But I decided to keep Concert and Dunk because I felt there was a bit of rotation potentially coming at Chelsea because of the cup finals they're in, and also Chelsea had this blank. So I could have looked at it, right? and this is the point I'm trying to make here is I could have looked at last week and thought, oh, I can take out Conser because next week I'll have one free transfer and that can get me 11 players playing. But that would have relied on nothing else going wrong with my team, and something has gone wrong with my team. Dunk's been suspended, so now I can use my free transfer and still get 11 players out because I decided to keep Conser over Rudiger, if that makes sense. So, and I don't care that, Conser got me 1 point against United and will probably get me nothing in the next part of the double game week, fine. But the point was, it was about having flexibility for this game week to have 11 players out without taking a transfer, so that when something does go wrong, like a Dunk red card or whatever, I can still get 11 out without a hit this week if I want to. So yeah, that's the point I'm trying to make, is building for those future game weeks, which is where I think can really set you apart as an FPL manager, of thinking ahead of, Rudiger, yes, probably got a better chance of clean sheets when he plays, but Conser's more nailed on. Conser has a fixture this week. It was against Palace, so I rolled the dice and took Rudiger out, kept Conser, so that I had that flexibility to deal with a red card for one of my players, or sending off, or an injury, or you know what I mean. So yeah, I think that's a really interesting point to learn for every single year in FPL.
We've talked about it before, and I say it probably almost every other game week, so I'm sorry. I'd say I repeat myself a lot on this podcast, so fair play to you all for sort of just taking it. But, I mean, the not-so-glamorous side of FPL is the strategy, and this season has, it's been a baptism of fire for me, because it's the first season. It's not the first season I've cared about it, but I've never cared about it or thought about it as much as I was saying this earlier in the season. I wouldn't have been planning for a blank or a double 5 weeks in advance. Do you know what I mean? Maybe 2 or 3. But I'm taking it to the next level this season. And I think a lot of people who are listening to podcasts and content probably are too. And this season's been a mad one, but it's not the glamorous side of FPL, strategizing to get 11 players out and working around blanks and doubles and triples now and everything else. But that is what it's just a huge edge. If you're doing that and your mini league rival isn't doing that, and he's as good, if not better than you, at picking players and forming the eye test and looking at stats and whatever else, you'll probably still come out on top. You will come out on top. Yeah, you will. Exactly.
Yeah, that's a really good point, John, because countless times over the years in mini leagues, work colleagues or friends of mine, it's always been like, you get to this crunch time, this blank game week, and they might have had a really good game week the week before and had loads of players, and then all of a sudden they look at their team and they're like, oh shit, I've got 5 or 6 players who blank. They then have to take a -8 or a 12, and assuming that hit doesn't pay off, then you're already 12 points ahead of that person before a ball's been kicked. So it can be a real advantage, and this isn't to say don't take points hits, because they can really work, but yeah, it's just about planning ahead and doing that for future game weeks. So yeah, it's really helped myself get 11 out this week, even if I'm not particularly happy with all of them. The players I picked haven't necessarily, they're not perfect at the minute, but at least I'm happy with the strategy that I employed to get to this stage, if that makes sense.
Yeah, and it's things is like last week I got rid of Vardy because I knew this week I'd have 10 players if I didn't get rid of Vardy for Calvert-Lewin, and now I'm sitting here with Calvert-Lewin, who did better than him this week already, and Calvert-Lewin, I have him as captain for Sheffield. So it's like those little things. Now, maybe I would have done that before, I don't know, but I'm just thinking, it's the boring part of FPL for many. I'm sure some of us love it, but it's really what gives you that huge edge to have incredible rank histories if you're doing it every year and other people aren't.
I think what you'd have probably seen, if you wasn't taking that seriously this year, you'd have probably seen the fact that Vardy has a double and therefore not considered him as one of your transfers out. You'd have just looked elsewhere in your team. And then obviously, by taking it more seriously, by thinking it all through, by looking ahead and seeing the fact that he's got a blank next week, and if you didn't do it, then you have too many players blanking, and it made sense to free up some cash, bring in a good asset, and redeploy those funds elsewhere to improve the rest of your squad. It just made total sense. Even if Vardy would have went ahead and got a brace this week and Calvert-Lewin only got 1 goal, I'd have still said that was I'd have still felt happy with that transfer, if you know what I mean.
Question, what kind of question topic thing? Gareth Bale, he was on fire against Southampton and Sheffield. Against Leeds, he was absolutely shite. Yeah. And he was, I was talking to Lynn last week, he was her, I assume she did bring him in, but she nearly convinced me too, and I bought in, I thought it made complete sense, and I failed for the Bale sort of, there's probably some people who captained him, the Bale believers. Nah, you wouldn't have captained him in the single week, sorry. But what I'm saying is, it's he's got a couple of great fixtures coming. Is he? We've kind of been quite dubious on him for a long time. I think I definitely had him at one stage. I got burnt. I don't know if you did.
I didn't know.
No,
I got lucky. Yeah, he because I think at that stage he was looking like he was back in favour under Mourinho, and then all of a sudden him and Mourinho fell out. Bale was saying stuff in the press about, you know, he wants to return to Real Madrid. He wants to be playing before the Euros. Mourinho wasn't even, I think, away at Aston Villa when I think Kane and Son were both out, or Son was out and injured, and Lamela was suspended. And he played a team that didn't start Bale or bring him off the bench. So that was really, really telling, because they had really limited forward options and Bale still didn't get on the pitch at all. And that was not FPL manager's fault, because it looked like he was back in favour. But yeah, Bale last game looked poor. I think you're going to get that with Bale. But his minutes per goal or assist this season is the best in the league. I was watching Sky Sports Monday Night Football last night, and they put it up. His minutes per goal and assist is the best. I guess he gets his points, he gets his goals, and then he gets subbed off early because of that. So he is still a good asset. He's not someone, just for my own personal team, like, I think for me, I've just got, if he gets points, he gets points. There's no way of me really getting him in, and I'm certainly not going to tear up my team for Gareth Bale. If I had him in my team, I'm sure this week most people are going to have bigger fires to fight, because you've got a player at home to Wolves who's in decent form. If you know, obviously it's only one game against Leeds, so I think if you've got him this week, play him. Possibly not captain him unless you're fancying a gamble. But there's the likes of Salah's playing West Brom. Kane's obviously got Wolves. I think you mentioned Calvert-Lewin's got Sheffield United, so there's probably better captaincy options. So I think Bale's probably a keep if you've got him. I don't know. I guess maybe some people are looking at freeing up some money from Fernandes, because they don't want an expensive asset on their bench. They could maybe go Fernandes to the likes of a Son or Bale. I get that. So yeah, it could be a move for some people.
Yeah, he popped up in my thinking there when I was checking around on the FPL site, and I think it was close to bringing him in.
He can burn you. But yeah, maybe do we hold him in too high of a standard, because he's blanked that game against Leeds, but I know you're saying he didn't play well, but Kane blanked in that game. I know what you're saying. I'm not putting him in that. He's not that sort of reliable asset. You've got to know what you get in when you buy someone like a Jota, a Greenwood, or a Bale. They are these sort of players who they're not going to necessarily play 90 every week, like Kane does, like Son does, like Grealish when he's fit, like Watkins when he's fit, or whatever. There is some unpredictability there with these players, but if you can accept that, like I've got Jota knowing that he's probably going to be benched for this Man United game. I'm hoping he plays the easier game against West Brom this week. If he doesn't, in week 37 he'll definitely be gone. But yeah, I've bought him knowing the risks, and I think that's really an important thing.
That's the important thing.
You can't be buying a Bale expecting him to be a Harry Kane who plays 90 every week. Regardless, there is some risk there.
Wes, before we get into the questions, I know we've touched on a lot of this, but budget forwards was something we said we'd discuss and come back to.
Yeah, so budget forwards. I don't know if I finished off on my team. Yeah, so regardless,
I'm all over the gaff.
We are. I don't really think it matters. Like I said, I think I'm around 5k. I think the take home is, in terms of the overall ranks, I'm ranked around 5k at the time of recording. Before the game week started, I was 4.4k. I imagine I will drop down to something like 5k, 6k ish. Maybe I can get lucky and jump up a bit. Who knows? But that's me. Good season so far, I guess, on the whole. After a really tough start, a tough middle stage. And happy to be top 5k, hopefully cement a top 10k. By the end of the season, I'll be over the moon with that, mate. So yeah, that's me.
It could be like, I'm looking at I've just lost it. Of course I have. I've got it up again. Your season history, like this could be one of your big ones. This could be your second best finish.
Yeah, it could be. Yeah, so
it could be your best finish if you have an absolute whirly. It could have been your best ever finish if you'd hit bench boost.
Yeah,
just to make you sick.
No, to be fair, the bench boost thing didn't work out too badly, because when I did actually play it, obviously I still had it in the back pocket, didn't I? So I got to play it again, got some points back, and it's been a tough one to actually figure out how it's actually gone, because obviously the whole composition of my squad's been different. Game week 26 now, I've got I've still got two expensive keepers because of the later bench boost. But it's one to forget, isn't it? Who knows how it would have gone. But
look, it's a story for FPL meetups and WhatsApp groups for the years. Do you know?
It is. Exactly. I can laugh about it now. It was tough at the time, but yeah, happy with my season. Like I said, you've always got to take it on I see these people moaning on Twitter or wherever else saying, I've had a really bad week. I've dropped from 4k to 5k or whatever. I've dropped from 1k to 2k, or I've dropped from 10k to 11k. But you just got to remember there's managers out there who will be reading that stuff, sitting at 200k, 100k, and you could easily be in that position. So, you've got to be humble and just sort of accept that, even if I have a bad game, we can drop down to 10k this week. I'm not going to go moaning about it. I'll still be top 10k. So yes, it could be better, but it could be a lot worse. So that's how you've got to look at it. If I have a bad game week from 4k down to 6k, then happy days. I'm still 6k. That's how I look at it, and I'll hopefully try and get a green arrow next week. That's how you've got to think about it, I think.
Here's one for you, Wes, right? We're moving on to the kind of budget forward talk, and I don't know how much there'll be left in that after what we've already spoke of.
I think we've probably done it, to be fair, but yeah, carry on.
Probably have. But here's just a wee sort of one for you. And I mean, I don't really use this too much, if ever. Sometimes maybe just to kind of throw my eyes over and see if I'm missing anything that's standing out.
Yeah.
But on the actual FPL site, when you go in and you can select like all players, goalkeepers, defenders, forwards, sorted by, I don't know what their metric is or their matrix or however they decide it, but do you ever like use these things like form and see with FPL who they say?
No, I think
because you have different tools on Hub and stuff, I'd say, but
yeah, and also in fact, it's weird you mention that, because I was trying to make sure I didn't miss out any of the budget forwards to talk about earlier, so I did actually go. It's really weird that you mentioned that, because I literally never use it ever, but I did go to forwards and I did sort by form just to see, and like I filtered the price down a bit just to see who was there, and I saw like Josh Madger near the top, and I was thinking, what's he doing there? And he's basically there because a few game weeks ago he got some points versus Arsenal, but 1 goal in his last whatever games for Josh Madger. If you see him, he shouldn't.
He's above Watkins, like.
Yeah, and it just, for me, yeah, no, I'd rather just go off either my own memory or other stats or whatever. Yeah, so I think,
just to really butt in there, Wes, Josh Madger, because of that goal on this, is above Bamford, Calvert-Lewin and Watkins. Do you know? So's Fabio Silva is above Welbeck, Diagne. I don't know how you'd say it. So yeah, it's flawed, but it's funny. The only reason I mentioned it is because I did exactly what you did, just to be like, am I going to miss anyone in this conversation? But
yeah, it really is. I don't know how they do it. What classes form for them? They probably include like, so if you had a really good, so let's say if there's a striker who did really well like 6 game weeks ago, they got a hat trick and then 5 blanks, that player would probably still be top of form, because I think it's just a calculation of average amount of points over the last 6 weeks or something like that. So as a rule, as a rough rule of thumb, it kind of works a little bit in terms of course it picks up players like Chris Wood and Ian Acho who are flying high, but like you just said, the fact that Josh Madger's in there, and even someone like Aguero isn't on form, is he? Are ahead of the likes of Kane and Watkins, who have been doing well. Bamford, maybe not Bamford, but Calvert-Lewin's only not in there probably because of his injury. Yeah, since Calvert-Lewin's missed a couple of games, came back with a blank, but then back-to-back goals. So yeah, I don't use that. You can use it, and you can kind of use it and take it with a pinch of salt. But no, it's fairly useless, I'd say.
Yeah, just looking there. There's some gimmicky things you're gonna look up, like the most bonus points won and all this shit. But yeah, not something I use too much. I was just wondering if you cared for it at all. But I think it's more for and I don't mean this in a kind of demeaning way or like a dickhead, but it's more for the casual, isn't it? It's more for just your person who sort of throw logs into FPL, make a couple of transfers a week, doesn't really care about their rank. It's more for the office and just being part of it, and that's just being truthful. That's what that's for. I mean, other people probably get their data somewhere more reliable. Anyway, that's a complete tangent. Sorry for wasting everyone's time. Wes, was there anything you wanted to throw in there on the budget forwards, or will we go into questions?
No, I think it'll be fine, and then probably in the questions we'll probably chat about it more if we need to.
It's funny because I brought this whole topic up, then went on a sort of tangent for like 5 minutes, and then never actually mentioned budget forwards. Right. Okay. So we have a few questions here. We won't do them just quite quick fire, but Mendy and Forster worth hitting for 36 as FPL Ferry. So he's got Mendy and Forster. Should he take a hit?
So obviously Chelsea don't have a game, and then the Southampton goalkeeper situation is Hasenhüttl has openly said he will be rotating these goalkeepers, and I think the theory is that it looks like it's McCarthy's turn this week, so he's potentially not going to have a goalkeeper this game week, and obviously by the sounds of it, the rest of his team needs a transfer as well, so he's looking at a -4 for a goalkeeper. But yeah, I'd say you could do it. You know, Pickford's got a high chance of getting more than 4 points this week and paying you back at home to Sheffield United. Maybe the Palace keeper as well, or Villa, or maybe Martinez away at Palace. You know, there's some decent fixtures to choose from in week 30. What week are we in now? Yeah, 36. That you could potentially, you know, you've got that more upside, haven't you? If you don't go for it, you're guaranteed a 0 in goal. If you go for it and they get 2 or 3 points, you haven't lost out too much. But if they go big and get a penalty save and a clean sheet, then you're obviously going to be massively up. And I know that sounds unlikely, but it could happen. I think it's one of those where, you know, I'd see it as sort of, you know, if you don't buy a ticket to the lottery, you have no chance of winning. There's that sort of thing. And like I said, that the risk, it's only 4 points. And as long as they get, like I said, 2 or 3 points, you haven't been burnt that much. So I'd say it's worth the risk if you're going for someone like a Pickford. Trying to look at the fixtures now if I see if there's anyone else. Liverpool keeper, maybe. You know, obviously it's a lot more budget to be used, but Alisson got a few save points last game. He's got West Brom this week. Southampton, you could go from someone like Mendy to McCarthy, guarantee yourself a keeper for the rest of the season, and have, you know, a keeper at home to Fulham. Fulham can't score goals at all. So yeah, Fulham and Sheffield United are the teams to target for defences. So yeah, go for it.
Yeah, I'm looking there actually. That's not a bad shout, is it? I'm just looking at Southampton's fixtures of West Ham the last week. Yeah, I mean, you're probably going to lose a point or two, but you might gain 6, as you say. So it's like one of those, isn't it? I think I would only really do it if I'm going to get utility out of the other player for the rest of the season. Do you know, if you're getting someone in, and you can use them in the next week or two as well, it's kind of like, okay, yeah, that's like, it's double chance. Whereas if it's just like a 1 week thing, and then if you get rid of Forster for a goalkeeper this week and you're eating up budget, and then you're going to use Mendy for the last few weeks anyway, it's kind of like, ugh.
Yeah,
I don't think there's a right or wrong answer there.
No, but that's a really good point you just made. Like you said, if it is just 1 more week and you're using up budget by going from someone like Forster to a Pickford, then if you plan on playing Mendy the last 2 games, then yeah, that's more in the camp of probably not worth it. But if you're doing, you know, Mendy to McCarthy, might free up that 0.8 million you need to make another better transfer to your outfield players. It then guarantees a keeper for the rest of the season. Who knows? You know, Kepa sometimes gets a game for Chelsea, and yeah, I think something like that could be a good move. Although it seems counterproductive taking out someone like Mendy who has the chance of clean sheets and obviously just saved a penalty as well. But yeah, I think that move could make sense for this scenario.
Who do you think is the best defender for sub 6 million this week and for the remainder of the season? His current thoughts are Dallas. That was Lee Carruthers, and FPL Robbo jumps in to help him out and says Dallas and or Kufal would be his opinion.
2 guys from the Hub WhatsApp group that I'm part of, and yeah, Lee was the guy. I can't remember if we shared this on the pod or if it was just on the stream. I think it was just on the stream. Lee listens from an oil rig in the North Sea. You know that picture I sent you, John. So yeah, he's probably listening.
Did we actually? I don't even know if we pulled that up or not. We should have.
I think we did on one of the streams, but I'm not sure if Lee listens to both the stream and the pod. But yeah, Lee, thanks for listening all the way out in some random outpost in the North Sea. But yeah, the best defender, and funny enough, it's the same dilemma I've got this week. I already own Dallas, but yeah, that is my answer actually. If I didn't have Dallas, I would say Dallas. And interestingly, you said FPL Robbo jumped in with Kufal as well. Again, I don't want to, I'm not going to be different for the sake of it. I'm going to agree with these guys. Kufal is someone I'm looking at as well. And I've got this dilemma. I've got, like I said, I've only got 10 players for this week, with now Dunk suspended. And I've got $1 million in the bank. So I've literally got 5.9 million to spend on a defender, but I already have Dallas. So yeah, I might look at Kufal. The thing that worries about Kufal is I like him from an attacking point of view. The game against Burnley a couple of weeks ago, he's getting loads of crosses. The game just gone against Everton, I think it was Kufal, could be wrong here, but I'm pretty sure it was Kufal who hit the post from it was a fairly difficult chance. It was him, wasn't it? Yeah, it was.
But one missed the rebound.
Oh, was it? Yeah, that's right. That was a bit of a comical one, wasn't it? But yeah, Kufal could have, if he gets a goal in that one, then he's definitely on everyone's radar a bit more. But the thing about West Ham is, and again, I haven't got it up in front of me, but their clean sheets in the last however many games is probably like 0 in the last 10, I want to say. I don't know, I could be wrong there, but let's have a quick look.
5, so something like that. The last time they had a clean sheet was against Leeds in game week 27.
So yeah, that's like roughly speaking 8 or 9 games ago, something like that. Whatever. The point I'm trying to highlight is they're not keeping clean sheets. So, is bringing and clean sheets. We can talk about attacking defenders and getting points from attacking defenders, which is all very well and good. But for the large majority of defenders, their bread and butter, the points you're going to get from those guys is from defensive returns. Which is why I was fairly happy with Dunk, because he was. Although the fixtures turn a bit for Brighton, and although obviously he's just been sent off and he did get a goal, that they were looking good on the sort of XG conceded, all that sort of stuff, and watching them, they kept Leeds out, a good attacking side. But yeah, Dallas, Kufau are possibly the best options, sub 6 million. I was a bit anti-Everton assets in terms of, apart from Luca Dean, I just felt there was rotation possibilities for Coleman, Holgate, Godfrey. I thought they all could be rotated because Yerry Mina's back fit, Keane's back fit. Sometimes Iwobi plays right wing back, and therefore Coleman misses out if they play a back five. So I felt there was a lot of rotation risk to everyone apart from Luca Dean. And I know Luca Dean is 6 points. He's above 6 million, isn't he, for this question? So, but however, Coleman's actually played a few games in a row now, and maybe Godfrey, maybe they are nailed. I just don't know. And when I have question marks over how nailed a player is, I tend to avoid them unless I feel there's a lot of upside, like with someone like a Jota, who I feel like, he could explode. He's been really annoying me, but someone like that could explode. Whereas, if you get a rotation risk cheap defender, then they miss out, especially the week where we definitely need them this week, because of obviously we're going to be carrying the Man United, Chelsea assets, etc., Leicester assets. You do really want a nailed on option, and therefore Kufal is that nailed option, isn't he?
Yeah, Kufal, and I was actually looking at it there in terms of minutes played. All players, Kufal is not actually, there. Dallas is the defender with the most minutes all season. Like, Dallas is solid. Højbjerg and Souček, 2 midfielders with the most, and Watkins is the forward with the most. But that shows the shit I'd be doing whenever you're talking, whereas I'm clicking around looking at random stats. But
it's good.
Yeah, I think like Dallas's fixtures are solid. Dallas has been the kind of Lundstrom of this season, hasn't he? Maybe not quite as cheap at the time. Did Lundstrom start at 4 million? Did he?
Yeah, he started at 4 and Dallas at 4.5. But yeah, you're right, and there's so many things going for Dallas. He's nailed on for 90. No matter where, he sometimes plays midfield, and then there'll be a substitute for a midfielder comes on. But then Dallas then just goes back and plays somewhere in defence, so he never gets taken off. He's got 8 goals so far, which is the highest for a defender, 3 assists, so he's got 11 returns in terms of attacking returns. But even someone as attacking as Dallas, like I said, their bread and butter is still clean sheets, because he actually has 10 clean sheets. He's got more clean sheets than he has goals, and we keep lauding Leeds and Dallas for their goal scoring. But like I say, it is clean sheets that is the bread and butter for these defenders. So that's what does put me off Kufau, which is why I need to do a little bit more research into a better defender if I am going to get one. But yeah, Kufau, Dallas, and I think for Lee's question, he doesn't have Dallas by the sounds of it. I need to stop thinking about my own team actually. Yeah, for Lee's question, the answer, quite simply put, is Dallas.
Well, there we are, Lee. There's a very thorough answer for you. FPL Merch, Ross says, now the relegation battle is over, what teams do you think are most likely to be on the beach for the last few?
I think I don't believe in this on the beach theory, and I think Ross knows that because of some chats in there. Yeah, I think this gets banded around a lot, and even going into this game week, someone like Fulham had it all to play for, but Burnley were pretty much safe, and Burnley turned over Fulham. Crystal Palace were supposedly on the beach and played really well against Sheffield United. Wolves, another team supposedly on the beach, score a 90th minute winner, and the whole team is celebrating like they've just won the World Cup. So I don't believe, and a team like Spurs are still going for Europe spots. Leeds are comfortably mid-table, and Leeds turn over Spurs. So I don't believe in the on the beach theory at all. I do think there's potentially, if we go into these final game weeks of the season, everyone's safe now and everyone's relegated. So maybe managers start bleeding some youngsters. Things like that can happen. Whereas, if a team are fighting for relegation, obviously they're not going to start experimenting. However, yeah, the on the beach theory is total nonsense in my opinion, and something I don't buy at all. And also, someone like West Ham, they're definitely not on the beach. They're going for Champions League football, blah blah blah. But I think they've lost 2 games in a row now. If they were sitting mid-table everyone was saying, "Oh, West Ham were playing good, but the reason they've lost the last two is because they're on the beach." No, teams can lose football matches when they're mid-table teams win some games, lose some games. That's why they're mid-table. And likewise, Leeds lost last week against Brighton, and you're hearing people saying they're on the beach. It's just nonsense, absolute nonsense.
Yeah, I'm looking here at the table, and everyone in the top 10, the top half of the table, all have something to play for. Now, the chances of Leeds getting European football, they need to win all theirs, and then like West Ham and Liverpool lose theirs and all, but mathematically it can be done.
It doesn't matter anyway, because they've all got something to play for in terms of all Leeds players play for Bielsa. Bielsa isn't going to let them just chill out and have a shit game. And like I said, they could lose, of course they could, but it doesn't mean that they're on the beach when they lose, and it doesn't mean that if they're fighting for something, it doesn't mean anything either. And sometimes Burnley and Wolves or whoever could play more relaxed now because they know they're safe or whatever. So yeah.
But I think even for like someone like Leeds and like Everton, even 7th place for them is that new Europa Conference League thing. Do you know? Unless I'm butchering this, am I kind of rough understand that? I haven't read too much about it. But it's like a new Europa League. It's like the 3rd European league now. It's going to be below the other two. And it's just like another one, basically.
I don't know if that's this year, though, to be fair. I think
is it not? It's showing on flash scores.
I think it's just... I don't know. I'm not...
It's probably not this year. Anyway, bottom line is, I don't know why it's showing on flash scores. I've heard it bandied around, but what I was saying is, like, if it's next season, whenever the fuck it comes in, that'll be a nice wee competition for people like, clubs that haven't been as dominant in Europe in the last 20 years to kind of get their players used to midweek football and all the rest. But anyway, I'm kind of chatting shite there. Bottom line is that top sort of half of the table, they all have something to play for. Obviously Man City are pretty much home and hose. They'll be focusing on the Champions League final. But yeah, I know what you mean. These are all professional teams, and even at this stage, even the relegated teams, these players will be playing for a transfer. These players will be playing, they want to be seen, they want to be back in the top flight. Yeah, they don't just want to be relegated to play in the Championship for a season. And
and players from like Southampton and Brighton are going to want to play for their place in the team next year, or play to be offered an extended contract, or play because, like I said, they're all competitive animals wanting to win week in, week out, aren't they? Yeah. So yeah, it's just absolute nonsense. I've never bought into it, and especially this game we just gone just proves that teams in certain positions are winning against supposed teams who have everything to play for. So yeah, just not for me. You do sometimes see it where like a team is galvanised, who they're maybe 18th in the league, but they're on a really good run of form, and they have that sort of, they really want to survive relegation. But 6 game weeks ago, you'd have said that was Fulham, and they then lost 5 or 6 in a row or something. So yeah, it doesn't always work that way, and you can have all the motivation in the world. It doesn't mean it translates into results, and you can have less supposed motivation and still do well. So yeah, don't buy it for me.
I've just looked up Europa Conference League. It says here that the next date is the Thursday, July the 8th, 2021. And
okay.
That
Fair
runs
enough.
until the 25th of May, 2022. So
I
wasn't a complete fool. Who will qualify? It's a bunch of like kind of lesser known teams. And there's one from the Premier League. There might be one from the other big 5, a couple from here, a couple from there. I'd say there's a lot of 184 total teams. So there'll be 184 trying to qualify. But that's where you get the likes of a bunch of shite Irish league teams and stuff, and other ones mixing it with the big boys. So as I was saying, like just roughly, like it's not a big thing, but I think obviously clubs as big as Everton, Arsenal, Leeds, Villa, whatever, they'll obviously want Europa League football, Champions League football. But I don't think it would be that bad a thing for like a young team or an exciting team, like to get that bit of experience in Europe, the travelling midweek, the this, the that, to try and leapfrog and go further next season. But the issue you'll probably find there is that these teams, they won't have any weight on it, and they'll probably put out youngsters because they want to focus on the league. Then I wonder if they win that, do they get entry to the Champions League or just the Europa?
Don't know. Let's move on.
Let's fucking move on. Right. Antonio or Bamford for the last 3 game weeks?
Antonio.
Okay, we'll move on.
Try to do a couple quick fire if we can.
Yeah, I think I agree with that. Is Mahrez the punt to go for game week 36?
I've seen a lot of people saying this. I don't know. I don't like trying to second guess Pep. And then if you transfer him in that last game week of that last couple of game weeks of the season, is he going to start playing other people? I really don't know. I haven't got a strong opinion either way. My gut is like just basically avoid most Man City assets, just because I'm just too wary of rotation, especially in this sort of game week when we're going to need our full squad really. So for me, it's a no. I get why people are saying it. Just I'm not looking at City at all now. I think there's equally good assets in all the other teams that you don't need to worry about getting City assets, in my opinion.
Yeah, not for me. I think I've went long enough without City now to be wanting to go back for a punt. Same. There's other punts. There are other punts. Yeah. It's just too much risk. It's too much risk, particularly I think in game week 36, when if you have a reasonable team set up, you're likely to have a couple on the bench, and you can't afford to play Mahrez and him to be benched. Do you know he was the man in the Champions League for them in their last game, and he'll be there in the final. You can be sure of that. So yeah, it's not worth it.
And also, I think it's not it's also, if you are just thinking, if you're really confident you'll play week 36, that's fine. But there are still 3 game weeks left of the season that we need to give equal weight to. So if you get Mahrez in this week, yes, he might play, but does he play then week 37? Who knows? Does he play week 38? Again, who knows? So for me, my next transfers I want to be making are for players who are going to play or likely to play all 3 games of these remaining fixtures. So yeah, that's how I look at it.
Okay, have we any other ones? We basically answered FPL Robin Hood's question. He has a question here about the Son Bruno hokey pokey. Benching a premium and a blank at this stage feels unreasonable. And I get that because I think it was 2 weeks ago with Mark we talked about, I think Mark Southerns was getting Son in for Bruno, and then last week, or was it the other way around? Anyway, people have been kind of going between these two.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts on benching Bruno? Would you be inclined to get rid of him for someone?
Yeah, no, it's an interesting one. It's something that I have considered. Of when you're just playing around with your team and you're thinking, if I freed up that amount of money, therefore I could get player X, Y, or Z. So I do get it, and I'd be more inclined to do it if United had 2 tough fixtures. But not having Fernandes for that Fulham fixture is not a position I want to be in, really. I don't think. So, and this guy is on about maybe bringing in Son this week, and then the very next week, week 37, going Son back to Fernandes, which I guess is fine if you've got a really deep, good squad for week 37. Obviously, when you sort of Leicester and United players bounce back in, then I guess it could make sense. Generally speaking, I don't like hokey-cokey moves where you go from player X to player Y back to player X. But at this stage of the season, I guess it's less. You don't need to worry as much. Like I said, if you have got a really strong squad. So for me, I probably wouldn't look at that, because if I did, I could do that this week quite easily. Fernandes to Son, have 11 starting players, and then jump back for the Fulham game. But then I'd have players rotting out my team for the rest of the season, like your Armstrongs, your Dunks, your Consers. So yeah, like I said, it depends on the strength of your squad. But at this stage of the season, I don't mind it as much as I did from game weeks 1 to 33. I'd say no, but at this stage of the season, I think it's okay.
RP says, is it possible to make up 50 points in mini league at this stage in the season? No chips available. This is a question I'm asking you too, Wes.
Yeah, you are 50 points for me. Yeah, I don't see why not.
Stranger things can happen.
Yeah, so let's say if you get more. Okay, this is a double game week, to be fair, so the points are inflated. But so far, roughly let's say this game week's already ended, John. You'd have caught up 19 points to me in 1 week. Do 19 points 3 weeks in a row. That's 57 points you made it. Job done. So yeah, it can happen. It's tough though. It's getting more and more likely. You might have to play a little bit more risky. Maybe, like I said, take out that highly, captain that player who everyone won't go for, and kind of hope for the best. Bet against the sort of your own brain in a way, or your own logic, and hope for a bit of luck of a blank to a big player. Maybe Kane will be the top captain this week, maybe, or Salah. If you go for the likes of a Calvert-Lewin and hope those 2 big boys blank, then you could be, that's a way you could do it.
It's funny, because I'm chasing you. You're the main guy I'm chasing. I have other leagues and stuff. I'm not monitoring their teams. We're different enough, do you know? Watkins, I don't have. You're probably going to have to change that. You'll probably get Wood or someone anyway. You've Armstrong. You have Salah, who I don't have. We both have Fernandes and Jota. You have Consa. You have Shaw. You have Mendy. Do you know?
Ours are quite different.
They are quite different.
You've got the 2 Everton guys that I want, but I haven't managed to. It's just the way it's worked out. I haven't managed to get them in. They are obviously really good assets, especially for this week. So maybe I end up with one of those. I don't know.
Get out of here. last time, do you know what? You're not even allowed to get Calvert-Lewin. Last time you told me you were captaining him, and anything to do with Calvert-Lewin, I can't trust you. So get out of here. I'm captaining him this week, and that's my differential against you.
Hopefully he blanks, then that'd be good.
Yeah. But Wes, look, there are a couple of other questions, but we've kind of got round them all, I think, really. We're at the stage in the podcast where I'm kind of dicking around talking about Europa Conference Leagues and stuff. Is there anything else you really... I actually found out they do get into the Europa League, just to throw that out there. So, yeah. I know you really care about it, Wes. Is there anything else you wanted to talk about?
No, all good. Let's wrap it up. And... Just remind everyone that we're obviously streaming again. Last week's was, like you said, loads of people watching, loads of good interaction. So I hope that's another good one. And yeah, it's now the final few game weeks to go, and then another season's done.
Yeah, well, look, this is, as we say, we're recording sort of midday on Tuesday, so there'll be a lot happens over the next couple of days, we'd imagine, in the FPL world. So do join us for that stream. You can listen to it as a podcast, not here, but on the YouTube. Just listen to it. You don't need to see our faces. We don't have a lot of graphics. And we'll have more information and probably more up to date, sort of exactly what we are planning on doing and everything else. But yeah, you're listening to this on Apple or Spotify or wherever you are. Leave a review, subscribe. Thank you so much for listening. And I suppose after Friday we'll be back next week with a podcast, Wes.
Yeah, brilliant. Cheers, guys.
See yous.